Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paradyme. In this week's episode, we discuss rule number 11 from Dr. Jordan B. Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, titled, Don't Bother Children When They Are Skateboarding. It's a really good chapter. Make sure you follow us on all our social media platforms, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave us a comment below. We love the feedback, and we hope you enjoy the show.
You have to search for a new set of rules.
Bread is of little use to the man who has betrayed his soul.
Maybe you're the protagonist in your story, but like there's a million other people.
Welcome back. This is the book club meeting discussing chapter 11, Do Not Bother Children When They Are Skateboarding, from Dr. Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life and Antidote to Chaos. So what did you guys think of this chapter?
You want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So far is one of my favorite chapters in the book, just because I can relate to skateboarding, and a lot of the stuff he talks about is very, I don't know, just it hits home to me because I am a skateboarder and I just relate a lot to the topics.
Yeah.
I definitely like when he talks about like the comfort levels of parenting and trying to get out of the idea of protecting your children so they feel safe in your eyes, or they are safe. That whole concept of being an overprotective parent, it's kind of like teaching me not to be like, don't ever become an overprotective parent, because all you're doing is teaching your kids to not explore and take risks in life.
Sure.
So,
I like that too. I can agree with Devin on that. This whole chapter talks about like how you should make your kids strong. I like how he goes into detail about pretty much any system we're in where they try too hard to make us weak, it ends up doing the opposite. Like it never ends up working right. So
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I would say for myself, I really enjoyed this chapter because it kind of really backs up the idea of like keeping one foot in chaos and one foot in order. Kind of taking risks with the amount, like the appropriate amount of chaos and the appropriate amount of order. I thought that was a really interesting topic in this chapter.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Who wants to start it off?
I'm trying to find a really good point, or which one, like.
yeah, let me get back to the beginning.
I have page 287. People, including children who are people too, after all, don't seek to minimize risk. They seek to optimize it. I thought that was a really interesting idea because, like, it's true. Like, you watch kids on the playground, they're not trying to completely minimize their risk. They're just trying to do it the right way.
And
True.
them doing that's proving their competence. Like,
Right.
how far can I push this where it's like still dangerous, but I'm able to control it?
Right.
You know what's interesting? Like when I was reading this chapter, he's talking about kids skateboarding and, kids playing on playground, like just these objects. They're just kind of like everyday normal things to people, but they are kind of potentially dangerous to a certain extent. Like I never thought about a playground being like a dangerous thing until I was like reading this chapter. I was like, oh shit, like if I had a kid and he's like on the playground, like he has the potential to like fuck himself up if he's like just being crazy, like wilding out. Like if he jumps off this thing and lands on the ground, he could probably hurt himself. You know what I mean?
Right.
Weird.
I mean, even like at the gym, we were at the gym the other day and we're doing pull-ups and just, I don't know, I guess it's the same sentiment. I fucking just climbed up on the bar and like was trying to put my feet over the thing, and David's like, stop, don't do that. Like I couldn't help it. I wanted to do something that like was not normal.
Yeah, bro. If he would have fell like upside down, his head would have just
like paralyzed myself.
John he would have been out, bro. He wouldn't have made it to the podcast.
Overprotected, we will fail when something dangerous, unexpected, and full of opportunity makes its appearance, as it inevitably will. I just thought that was really interesting as well. Like the whole thing is about letting people take risks, like your kids. Don't bother them when they're skateboarding. They become competent in whatever they're doing, whether it's skateboarding or something else.
Yeah.
But if you overprotect them, they will fail when something dangerous, unexpected, and full of opportunity suddenly makes an appearance, as it inevitably will with anything in life. Right?
Yeah. I think it goes to show that if you are a parent and you do have like, obviously I can't speak from personal experience because I don't have kids. None of us do, but
I have A's.
Usually when you, not usually, I don't want to speak as if I'm talking for everybody, but it shows that if you do, or if you are that type of parent, predominantly kids come out very resentful to the world. And then that resentment goes into not just like resenting others, but being uncomfortable for a little bit. Once you break out of that shell, then you realize, oh, it wasn't me and my battling of the world. It was my mom or my dad trying to protect me from all the dangers, quote unquote, from the world. When the world, I needed this. I needed to be broken out of my shell to see who I really am. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. Some kids never get to see that side of life. And some kids are just like parented by their parents, and that's the only world they know. But yeah, I think the parents in the long term, in the long role, or the long whatever, become the person that is resented from the kids. Kids look down upon their parents because they try to protect them from the world.
Yeah. Kind of comes back to the earlier point too. It's like, do you want to make your kids safe, or do you want to make them strong?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Right.
Did you ever feel like, real briefly, like the three of you guys, like, did you ever feel like you were overprotected at some points in your life?
Oh yeah. I went to one high school party when I was in high school. I wasn't allowed out.
What was like a specific moment, a super brief moment where you knew like, oh shit, like I've been kind of sheltered?
I would say I guess the most recent example is just us moving out. It's like I've always wanted to move out. But it was the fact that like I had this voice in my head that I could hear, like my mom, like, oh, you always have a place to call home. And it's like I always hear that, and it's like, oh, I can go mess up, or I can go fuck up, or I can go make a mistake, and I know I got a place to stay.
Yeah.
When you have a certain accountability, you take second thoughts about fucking up or making a mistake, like, or going out and wasting a weekend, or getting drunk, like whatever playing video games on the weekend and being like, oh damn, now I gotta catch up on everything.
You know what? But that's okay though. Your parents should do that. You know, my parents always said, if anything ever goes wrong, like you can always have a place to call home. Yeah. And they should, rightfully so. You know, my ex, her parents kicked her out at like 18. They're like, you're an adult now. Like, we want to be empty nesters. It's like, why would you do that? Like, like when I was 18, I wasn't ready to fucking do anything like that. Are you crazy? You know?
Yeah.
I think it's more just the parents acknowledging that, like, hey, we need to shape you into an adult, because technically you're an adult since you're a kid. You're just a kid, and
but life's hard now, man. That shit's,
it is. Like, it's hard as fuck now, especially living in like these big cities. Like,
I'm about to go move back home, and I'm trying to find a place to live, like rent and stuff. And I'm like, if my parents were in the area, for me to go tackle that right off the bat, it would be so much stress. You know.
Dang.
So like, I'm blessed that my parents are like, yeah, like this is always home if you need it to be, you know?
Was there a time in your life, John, where you're like, oh shit, like I'm overprotected, or no?
I never felt like, I thought to myself, oh, I'm super sheltered. But my little brother had a liver transplant at age 5. And I think since then, she had been kind of overprotective, because she was like, I could lose my kids at any time. I didn't realize that before. She's way more protective over Robert, my little brother. But just growing up, she's very like hard-headed. I remember one time I was at a party, and I was at somewhere where I said I wasn't, and my mom saw my car, and she just parked up and just walked around the house and grabbed me. And she was like, I know you guys are all bad kids, like smoking and drinking. This is not cool. She's like, you're coming home with me. I was so fucked up. I was like, my mom tells a story. She goes, you tried running out the back door. And I was like, don't remember that.
God.
So that was maybe being a little bit overprotective, but she could have just like, you know.
I think this moment I knew I was overprotected, and I don't know if you guys went through this, but it was like when I wanted to go to a friend's house, like comparing to like my cousins, it was like, okay, yeah, go ahead and go to your friend's house. I'll see you in a couple of days. For me, it was like, okay, what's the parents' number? What's their address? Who are you going to hang out with? Who all is going to be there? I was like, oh my God. Like, I never wanted to ask to go anywhere at that point, because it was like, okay, well, what's your social security? What's the back 3 numbers on the back of your credit card? And so I can go over to your place. You know what I'm saying? I was like, dude.
I can relate. Up until I want to say like maybe 15 years old, my mom had the same criteria of like, well, who are they? Are there going to be girls there? Yada, yada. And I was like, oh, don't worry about that.
For real. Don't worry about it, sweetheart.
For me, I definitely knew I was overprotected because it's funny because it came kind of from skating. Like I refer back to skateboarding. Like I was like a little fucking video game kid back then, you know? And I think one of my friends started skating, like I think it was Harpreet, and he was like, when I went to his side of the, like at Fresno, it was rough as shit over there. There's like gang shit and like just fucking super sketchy people over there. But we were just kids, so we didn't know. So we just like go out and skate. But until I started actually going to skate parks, I saw like a whole nother world that I wasn't like exposed to. Like it was like weird to me, seeing just like kids with no sense of guidance or just like drinking and smoking and like just like cussing and talking about like fucking crazy ass shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh damn, like this is like, it's pretty wild because I don't get exposed to this like just going to my little like Clovis school.
Right.
But when I would step out of like skating, then I felt like I was like sort of in the jungle per se.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the stuff that I learned out there, like skating, like just like about pain and kind of the stuff he's talking about, it's just like dangerous, you know? I used to be like a little crybaby bitch back then. But then when I started skating and falling and learning how to do stuff. Back then? Oh, boom, roasted. No, but I would cry about a lot of stuff when I was a kid, bro. Like, and then when I was skating, I was like, it's bro,
get up,
you know? Interesting.
Definitely.
Moving on.
I thought an interesting thing to kind of bring up would be on page 290, the paragraph right before more about Chris.
Okay.
It says, people motivated to make things better usually aren't concerned with changing other people, or if they are, they take responsibility for making the same changes to themselves and first. So one of the biggest things, the points that I like to kind of bring this around to is like, when people tell you they're here to make things better, they're usually not concerned with changing things for other people. They're more concerned about the gain for themselves.
Yeah, what's the benefit out of, what are they going to benefit
Right.
from?
So when somebody comes in and tries to pull superhero, Superman, Deus Ex Machina type shit for you, it's like, understand that they have some sort of intention
and
for it.
You're saying to like propel their career, propel their social
Politicians
status.
for votes, whatever it might be.
Okay.
Right. It's like I'm come here to make a change. You know what I mean? It's like, there's people out there that genuinely want to make a change, but you really got to look at it. And literally right before it says on 289, if you cannot understand why someone did something, look at the consequences and infer the motivation.
I love that you said that. I love that.
Right. So if somebody's like, I want to make this change. Okay, well, what are you getting out of it? Mm-hmm. Right. Like, why are you want to making a change for me or my community or the world? What are you getting out of it? And look at that consequence and infer the motivation. Really, what do you want?
And it's funny that you took that in a positive light. I took that in a negative light. Like where if someone would do you wrong and you're questioned, you're puzzled, like, why would someone do me wrong? Think about, well, what did they gain in doing so? Whether it was money, power, status, etc. And you can make the conclusion and be like, okay, well, I know why they did it. Like, at least I'm not puzzled by that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And move on with your life.
Yeah. I like that because I highlighted that same quote. I know exactly what you guys are referring to as far as like knowing the consequence and the benefit. Like if they're willing to be transparent, I wish more people were transparent.
Or even not,
actions.
but you can be like, you're doing this because you want this. It's clear. I
exactly. Being clear on their decisions and why they're doing it. I think this sort of ideology can be somewhat nihilistic though. Basing your actions or your decisions because you think everybody's out to get something for themselves. Sure. So you think this world is like, it's not worth doing anything for anybody.
True.
But also so I think people can make that argument, but I think it just comes down to person. Just having, I guess, good faith and knowing that like there are good people out in this world. I think we just live in a capitalistic society where money drives everything. And if you can get up on another person and they're unaware of what you can potentially benefit from doing whatever you're doing, then there's ease of maneuvering. But if they find out and the transparency is clear, then it's not so easy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
I totally feel what you mean about like the nihilistic part. I was just watching like this Instagram little reel and this girl was talking about how if a friend asks you what you're going to wear tonight, she's your friend to me because she wants to updo you and stuff like that. I was like, that looks like an exhausting life to live if you think that's like how life works.
Competition.
But you know, even if it's the littlest things, people do stuff for something, whether like they mean to or not. You know, he was bringing that made me think when we were out last weekend, we were shopping and Lexi liked this ring. She wasn't going to get it. And like, she just graduated and I was like, oh, I'll get it for you. And like, I really didn't think anything about it at the time, but like, I mean, I did it because it made me happy. That's the consequence of for it. It wasn't for her. Like, it made me happy. I was like, I'm happy I was able to do it for you.
Yeah.
Even the previous chapter, how we talked about, I remember there was one time we sat downstairs and you were talking about if I should reach out to like old friends, right? I don't know if you guys remember that conversation, reaching out to old friends. Like,
yeah, I remember.
If they've done something wrong to me, if they haven't, and we just haven't talked for a long time, how do I go about that? And it's not necessarily like, what are you expecting out of them? It's more of like, what do you want for yourself? Yeah. Like if you will feel better for reaching out to that person, then do it. Don't expect anything.
Yeah, nothing's wrong with that. It's good. Like, you know, it's so satisfying and like, and the other person benefits from it. Or they could.
So I think it just boils down to accountability. If you allow someone into your life and you know that they're making decisions based on the benefit of them, it's really kind of just have to be aware of that.
Yeah,
that's life.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
kind of bringing it back to that, you know, we live in this capitalistic society. People tend to deem that as an evil thing. Or at least I've seen that in my own kind of experience with people that surround me. They kind of think it's not a good thing, right? But on page 303, it's this little chunk of the paragraph, the second one. So it says, the collective pursuit of any valued goal produces a hierarchy, as some will be better and some will be worse at that pursuit, no matter what it is. And 2, it is the pursuit of the goals that in large part lends life its sustaining meaning. We experience almost all emotions that make life deep and engaging as a consequence of moving successfully towards something deeply desired and valued. The price we pay for that involvement is the inevitable creation of hierarchies of success, while the inevitable consequence is difference in outcome. Mm-hmm. So one of the largest kind of things that is a debate in my household is kind of like, is it fair? Right. And so the thing is like, we've all been heard, is life fair? Life isn't fair. You know what I mean? Life isn't fair. The pursuit of any type of goal, even like in my own class of, let's say at school, when you're pursuing success in a class, it creates a hierarchy of students, right? Like there's the top of the pyramid, and then there's, and then there's just beneath that, right? Like there's A, B, C, D, F. It creates this natural hierarchy of things. And like, that doesn't mean it's bad. You know what I mean? You kind of know where you stand and if you can improve or if you cannot. And so I just kind of thought that was an interesting point that he brings up, that like, no matter what you do, whether it's in a capitalistic society, a socialistic society, even a communistic society, there is going to be a creation of hierarchy. And it doesn't have to be race. Yeah. It could be competence.
You know, on that note, back to the hierarchy, referring back to the last chapter, how sacrifice equals, gain. You sacrifice maybe going out or more hours and you got to the top. Referring back to skateboarding, there's hierarchy. You go to the skate park. There's kids who shred and you let them shred when they're shredding. And then you get to skate when like you can kind of fit in to the rhythm. And that guy's putting more hours than you. That's why he's at the top and he's sick, just like anything.
Right.
Yeah. Because towards that end of that paragraph, it like, because a lot of, I guess Kevin Samuels is who I'm referring to. He refers to this exactly, the hierarchy, the source of outcome compared to fairness. People think fairness is equivalent to if you do the same category of operation, if it's relationship, if it's career, if it's business, if you think you're going to get the same outcome because you're doing that, right? How many people develop businesses, and we all understand, we've all heard businesses take 5+ years to even get up and get profit. Right. So what makes you different? And also understanding, do you think the world is going to be fair because you're in a business, or are you going to work harder to get a better outcome? Because fair equals outcome. It doesn't give you the results based on you being in a specific field. That makes sense.
Right. Just because you're doing it doesn't mean somebody's going to be giving you something.
And if it doesn't work out, that makes it unfair.
Right.
And part of that, someone could put in the same amount of hours, and that's just how it is sometimes.
Yeah, that's just how it is.
Straight up. Like literally you have the same product, but let's say you're not marketing it hard enough. You know what I mean? It sucks. But there's ways you can improve.
Do you guys ever go fishing?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Like I could be using the same rod, the same bait, the same everything. We're fishing in this fucking same boat. Right. And my buddy next to me is fucking just
Shred.
honey hole, just fucking fish the fish. And I'm like, I haven't got a fucking nail.
Yeah, same as skateboarding.
Like, what's up with that, bro?
Yeah. Same as skateboarding. Like you got trucks, wheels, same size board, everything. This man he does it way better. Why? Because maybe he's worked harder, maybe he's skating a long time, and it's unfair because you want to be at the position. So yeah, I think fairness is equivalent to outcome and not result. People just think like, oh well, I want it because I'm doing it too. Like, oh no, don't work like that. Sorry.
Definitely.
Just backtracking a little bit, 298. I want to go over this before we get too far ahead. He starts talking about how right now, kind of how the system's going. Schools kind of seem more geared toward women. Mm-hmm. You know, he kind of says that a little bit roughly, and he talks about one of the reasons why this is you know, for a boy to beat a girl, however, is often not okay, and just not often it is even less okay for him to lose. Imagine that boy and a girl age 9 get into a fight. Just for engaging, the boy is highly suspect. If he wins, he's pathetic. If he loses, well, his life might as well be over. And I just talked to, I was thinking it's almost a lose-lose situation when we're trying to compete against girls. And it's because of the society we live in, but it's also a double standard where it's supposed to be equal everything. But I mean, very clearly, I'm sure you heard it from your parents. Hey, you're not allowed to fight a girl. It's wrong. You know?
Right.
So how do you guys feel about that? What do you think in today's society, how that fits in with young men growing up and women?
It does suck that it is a lose-lose, because I believe it is a lose-lose. But it predominantly sucks looking at it from being a man and other men judging you, right? Because we hold our value in other men and how other men see us. Obviously, relationship-wise, we want women to find value in us too. We want women to find us attractive. Mm-hmm. But realistically, you want to be high value amongst the same gender.
And I think he says that, he goes, girls aren't attracted to boys who are their friends, or if they lose to girls, they go, oh, he's low value. He loses to girls.
Yeah. So if you can't but again, that's a lose-lose. There's no win in that situation. So you can beat the girl, and a girl that you may still like look at it as disrespect. So I agree that it is lose-lose, but I don't know a way around it.
And so we're almost put into a position where we aren't going to compete against them, because for us to just even enter the ring, we're already losing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think my paradigm on it would be like, there's double standards across the board. You know what I mean? This is kind of one as men we kind of have to take. Because let's say things change. I mean, it's I don't see them changing is all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've always played video games against my cousin or whatever and won. And it was like, okay, well, you won whatever. You were supposed to beat me. You know? But I mean, literally, I think that there's, like I said, there's double standards across the board. Is it fair? No. Is that something we kind of have to accept? Yes, because it's kind of like where we're living right now.
Totally.
But I mean, vice versa too, for women too. There's stuff that goes on for them, but it's just kind of what we have to accept.
Yeah.
Right on.
Seeing both sides.
Yeah. I wonder who he's like sort of referring to when he says like, when he's speaking like this, like if he wins, he's pathetic. Who's saying that these boys are pathetic?
His peers, as what I would assume.
Yeah, because realistically, you gain your, like if you just say, I'm the greatest, who identifies you as the greatest besides yourself? Because that's not real value.
Right.
You're giving yourself your value.
Right. So
that's not real.
Just referencing that, David, right here, page 228. Men enforce a code of behavior on each other when working together. Yeah. Do your work, pull your weight, stay awake, and pay attention. Don't whine or be touchy. Stand up for your friends. Don't suck up and don't snitch. Don't be a slave to stupid rules. Don't, in immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, be a girly man. So, right there, like we just naturally do it. Men enforce a code of behavior on each other. So I think that's who would be calling him pathetic. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what's so important about this right here is like, we're not a church group. We're not calling ourselves a church group, but it's a good place and it's a good practice for men to get together and discuss masculine things, because there's really, the world I would say is predominantly feminine in energy.
Mm-hmm. So it's in that direction.
I would agree.
And so it's important to have these types of outlets with groups of men. So I would highly suggest, like, if you're a young man listening, get yourself a group of counsel, because every man needs his lightning rod, and it can't be your woman. She's going to lose respect for you. Genuinely establish that. You know what I mean? And like I said, if you're gearing things towards women, expect your demographic to change significantly.
Yeah, I agree with that. It does. How I come to the table is if a woman knows what she wants out of a man, if a man understands what he wants out of a woman, you guys understand personality traits, you understand the consequence of being with the woman of your choosing. If you're looking for a housewife, if you're looking for a businesswoman, if you're looking for a dominant man, if you're looking for a submissive man, you know the consequences and you know the rewards. You know what comes with the judgment. You know what comes with the reality of being with a man or a woman like that. So there's no room for complaint. If genders understand that, I think the playing field is good.
Right. That's where the crazy idea of like every woman wants an assertive man. Do you really though?
No, dude. I know plenty of girls really that fucking don't like me because I am assertive.
Yeah. Right. But behind closed doors, they say they want an assertive man. I promise you.
Sure.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just wild. We'll go off for this conversation.
I have one on 305. If you guys have one before that, we can jump into that.
I can send.
Okay.
No, I mean, like, I can jump in with you.
Oh, okay. I thought we were sending something. All right. Well, 305, bottom paragraph, it says, why do we teach our young people that our incredible culture is a result of male oppression? Blinded by the central assumption disciplines as diverse as education, social work, art history, gender studies, literature, sociology, and increasingly law actively treat men as oppressors and men's activities as inherently destructive. They also often promote radical political action, radical by all the norms in the societies within which they are situated, which they do not distinguish from education. And so what I put here is upper GE studies at Fresno State. So my thing is right, the whole thing between church and state should be separate, right? I think preaching and prophesizing a philosophy at a university is highly unethical because you're kind of conditioning a wave of kids every single year on how to think. You know what I mean? Yes, lay down the foundation and give them the framework about how to like be a successful adult, right? How to be a successful contributor to their field, whether it's law, like you said, whether it's social work, whether it's geology, whatever it might be. But these upper GE studies, you're kind of forced to take them. They're giving these frameworks for how to live. And I think that's either where religion comes in or your parenting or reading these books. I don't think that's the job of the university because now we end up with like people that are walking around thinking, you know, communism's better, which each to each their own, or that the society is a product of male oppression, like gender studies, right? Like, if you believe how you want to believe, just don't be forcing me to take a class about it.
Yeah.
Right. It'd be interesting to learn about.
I think that's the underlying issue is people want to prescribe their own way of living on everybody.
Right. Each university.
Yeah.
I think that is a paradigm in itself that people do view, like, you know, that universities are teaching, like you need to believe this in order to pass. I think it's probably a byproduct of studying that people like study a certain philosophy or something and then they're like, oh yeah, I kind of do see it like that.
Right.
But when I went to Fresno State, I took like 4 feminism classes or like women's studies classes, and I really enjoyed them. You know, I don't
agree. Why? Yeah. Why?
Honestly,
why
it started out with knowing that someone had told me I needed to satisfy GE.
Right.
And I saw feminism, women's studies, and I was like, oh, I heard it's easy. My friend told me, okay, I'm going to go take it. And I took it and I was like, oh, this is very interesting. I'm learning about a lot of stuff, right? Some of the classes are different. Some of the teachers are better than others. I will say the single most important class I took, though, was a women's studies class. Really? But I had a really great teacher. And by all means, he did not say that you guys need to believe any of this stuff. You know, we did talk about a lot of like things, but it was always like, you guys don't have to believe. He's like, but if you guys want an A, all you have to do is be a part of the conversation, speak your mind. And he really put a really good class together.
Is there anything like maybe 3 bullet points you could shed some light on us to why you liked it so much? I get, you said like you liked the conversation, but what are some like topics, some shit you guys would chew on, or you were like, wow, I'm learning so much right now?
I didn't really, well, I mean, to me, it might be different now because a lot of the things that we've talked about now, and then like, you know, we're older men or whatever, but I think I liked the fact that I learned about, you know, the justice system and how they handle, like, you know, rape cases and women, domestic violence and stuff like that. It was very interesting. It led me to understand a lot of the stuff that I was going through at the time. Not like, you know, crazy domestic violence, but certain things that turn into something that could potentially be domestic violence. We learned about, you know, intersectionality, stuff like that, the spectrum of what it means to be a man or a woman and where like certain people fall in those lines. You know, gender, I guess, stereotypes.
Okay.
And then also, I think a big one for me was we talked about like humanitarian rights and what goes on to like other countries and like women in cross-cultural perspective, and learning about how we deal with issues like, or I guess like things like abortion and stuff like that. And then there was a bunch of kids in the class that did not agree with those things, but we had a discussion about it. And my teacher was never like, hey, like, that's not okay. He was like, let you guys, you know, talk. And it was super cool. I really, I can't remember his name, but that was the only class in college I took where he gave us a contract-based grade. At the beginning of the class, he was like, if you guys want an A, sign up for the A grade. He's like, if you want a B, sign up for the B grade. C, so forth. If you want a D and you want to pass with a D, he's like, cool. He's like, but you're just going to do the D work and that's it. You'll only get a D no matter how hard you, like, you'll get the D. And I was like, this is fucking dope. I signed up for the A. Got an A.
Expect nothing less from greatness, bro. So I got to ask you, if you were devil's advocate in that class and you wrote papers, right? You wrote papers in that class? You had to like write.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If you wrote papers in that class from the perspective of being the devil's advocate, would you fail? No. Okay. So it's just more about the discussion of ideas.
No. Yeah. It wasn't so much as that you had to agree with these. Okay. Or else you were going to fail per se. Okay. There's kids in the class that were like totally not for abortion and not for things. And they were the, I guess, person that didn't agree. So they still passed you know, they signed up for that grade and they got that grade.
Oh, okay.
I see what you're getting at, but let's keep moving.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I just wanted to say real quick, it is the college's duty. And I was told this the first semester I took college. Their duty is to push you off your dot. That's kind of what they said it, or push you off your spot. You're so used to being here and you're thinking from here that you've never thought from over here. So their job is to kind of push you outside of your comfort zone and kind of get you to think a little bit differently. And if that's what's happening, totally cool. Interesting. But if that teacher was like, no, you have to believe this or you're failing, then it would be inappropriate.
I don't really think that's a case for some college, but okay, we'll move on.
Yeah, definitely.
Something I would, just talking about, you know, how everything's not equal, even if you're doing the same work. I'm going to just read what I highlighted and I'll talk about my personal experience.
Okay.
Page 315, kind of in the middle paragraph. He goes, the introduction of the equal pay for equal work argument immediately complicates every salary comparison beyond practicality. And he says more, but what I wanted to get at, my whole life up until I came here, because I'm salary now, you go when you know, I'm a welder, you go and we're doing the same work as everyone around us. And people love to probe and see how much you're making because they want to make sure they're either making more than you because they think they deserve more than you, or see where they're at. And I was always really young and I would go in and I would make a good deal for myself. I would never make a bad deal for myself because it's my time. And I thought the worst they can say is, no, we won't pay you that. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Right. And a lot of times at work, my own crew, a lot of the older guys would end up resenting me because they're like, when I was your age, or just when I started here, I was only making this and I'm 10 years older than you, or whatever. And I was like, well, did you go to school for what I did? Are you able to do what I do? You know, I'm not the one who went and made a bad deal for yourself. You made that deal. Don't be mad at me. You know? Right. So
bars.
Facts.
You know, even if you're doing the same work as the person next to you, it's all about the deal you made for yourself. So that's always annoyed me with life.
Yeah. I never discuss. I don't do no pocket watching at work.
it depends. If I have a good relationship with them, I'm like, yo, what do you make? Because like I was like, I think I can make more. What do you make? And the guy says he's making a couple bucks more than me. I go, bet. Literally,
Next day.
no sweat off my shoulder
Right.
because I made the deal for me.
Right.
But next time I go in to talk to him, I go, oh, I want $2 more than what that guy just said.
Yeah.
I know you can do it.
Right.
And if not, bump me down to what that guy's making. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And easy peasy.
Conversation away, man.
Hell yeah, man. That's dope though. I mean, it's crazy how you can negotiate yourself a deal and people are still like mad at you.
No, dude,
What?
my foreman trader said he was like, they fucking pay you too much. I was like, okay. And I left. I was like,
They don't
all right,
pay
then.
you enough, bro.
And when I left, they were like, don't go. We need you. Like, oh, now you need me. Shut the fuck up.
20% raise right now.
That's what they're, yeah, dude, fuck. Fuck 'em.
We're already paying you more than everybody else. I don't give a damn. 20% raise right now while I'm walking.
Damn.
Okay. So question, what do you guys think of aggression? Is it a positive or negative thing?
Aggression.
Whew.
I'd say it's a natural thing.
Natural. Okay. Positive or negative? Depends on how it's used.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say in this context, like, for example, sometimes with basketball, I get a little bit aggressive. I'm not aggressive the entire time,
Right.
but sometimes when I'm in the paint, I need to be a little bit spicy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or like, it's just how it is.
Habanero sauce.
You know, maybe if some guys like checking us as a group and like no one's standing up, maybe like I need to funnel that into something so we don't get like punked or something, you know?
It's a thing that, you know, we do it. Like there's a lot of things that our bodies and our brains have for us for certain reasons. And I think they're tools for certain scenarios, right? Like we have stress. Why do we even produce cortisol if it's like, it just causes us stress and fucking stresses us the fuck out.
Right.
True.
I guess nature didn't just be like, oh, there you go. You could have this,
Right.
ability.
Serves a
you know.
purpose.
There's a thing for it. Like if you're in a very desperate situation, or you're like in a situation to where it requires cortisol to be spiked, your heart rate needs to go up, and you need to think quickly, and your body's in a fight or flight. Could be like what you need to get out of like an emergency situation in the wild or whatever.
Right.
So I think aggression is along that same standard. You know, we have it for a reason. I would say it doesn't need to be activated all the time, though. That's not cool, you know?
I think you put that perfectly, honestly, because like what he talks about here on 318, this subchapter, he talks about how society is breeding or condemning aggression of men, right? And how it's a masculine trait. What he says here on 318 is successful people that use their aggression correctly, right, they are taught or otherwise learn in early childhood to integrate their aggressive tendencies into more sophisticated behavioral routines. Aggression underlies the drive to be outstanding, to be unstoppable, to compete and to win, to be actively virtuous, at least along one dimension. Determination is admirable, pro-social face. And so I asked, why do you think it's positive or negative? And I think you answered that as well, because it isn't positive or negative. It's kind of how you use it, right? And so I think if parents kind of took that, even like, let's say the feminist mom that really wants her son to just kind of be like mad chill, more feminine. If they learned or taught their children how to funnel that aggression into the appropriate resource, which is why we have sports, right? But it's not completely a negative thing. So that's like, we're kind of creating a bunch of like beta males, right? If they're not willing to use their aggression.
Girly man.
If they're not willing to use their aggression in an appropriate manner to achieve an end or a means of an end, it's like, well, then we're losing all sense of proactivity, right? I mean, if you're not proactive and have some sort of aggression towards a topic or some sort of goal, you're kind of just sitting there and you're content.
Yeah, I see the aggression, I guess, in my own eyes, and like the city I live in, or like we live in, but predominantly the aggression is going into women's hands because men are folding for women. And so women have all the power. Obviously, if you're talking about just a general topic of aggression, yeah, that's like, you can play with that however you want to.
Right.
But more of like the man being the dominant factor, I guess how we history has known men to be. If we understand that man is supposed to be the aggressor, but also we want a woman in our life, but women understand they want careers and more money and independence and all the other good things that they believe are beneficial to them, then they start to take the power into their own hands because they understand that they have the sexual drive or the sexual luxury that men want, that men chase. And so men start to do real, I hate using these words, but like real beta simping mentality. And that's like, they start to lose value of themselves because this woman provides something that like, I'm afraid of being lonely. She brings me value. And it's like, that's where real beta men are. Obviously it starts with the parenting too. So
every time you say beta, I think of beta fish.
Beta fish.
Just
aggressive ass,
the little ass fucking cup of water. Just
imagine though you go to the gym and you don't have any aggression. It's like, what are we doing, bro? You know what I mean? Like sometimes you got to look yourself in the mirror and be like,
doing that though.
Like, bro,
just
what are we talking
about? Music. The type of music you listen to, it puts you in a certain mood. Like, it's like I'm ready to go
balance, though. You know what I mean? Because me and John don't go like, oh, we're ready to go fucking just go crazy at the gym. But when we are lifting the weight, it's like we need to fucking lift that weight, you know. But when we're like, all right, let's like just have a casual conversation. But there's some people that go up in there, bro.
Sometimes I'll be Ric Flair and that
be going slamming weights and shit, and that's just fucking not.
No, over the top. I'm talking about there's appropriate level there for sure.
Something I used to always say to myself when I'd be working out, I'd be like, I was like, don't be a fucking bitch.
Yeah.
Like, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Don't be a bitch.
Rule number one.
That one guy's like, lightweight.
You know, speaking of that, parenting your kids, there's this guy at the gym. Me and David recently become like at least acquaintances with him, and it generally makes me happy to see him. He goes with his son every day.
Yeah.
He pushes his son in a positive way. He's like, I can tell like he's a good father. And I was like, man, that's awesome. I was like, I love that you work out with your son. Like you guys push each other. I was like, we need more of that in America. Like it makes me happy seeing that relationship. Yeah. You know, I was like, my dad's the one who got me into the gym. You know, my dad still works out every day. He's like 60 plus. And I was like, that's what we're missing from America nowadays. That's just old fashioned dad caring about his kid, you know?
My dad never took me to the gym.
Me either.
Ever in my life.
Imagine that, the connection you could establish in there.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, I'm not even related to these guys. I'm happy to see them. You know what I'm saying?
I want to ask you guys a question. Where do you think the inability or like the fall off started to happen? You could talk about your personal life or history. Started to happen with the family unit to where men started to become more, I guess let's use the word feminine, or less aggressive and more submissive to what they want in life and to understand.
That's a hard question to ask because I haven't been around that long to like pay attention to.
But you do see what do you think the general population? Do you think
I'd say it's worse now. I don't think it's getting any better.
I would say just if you reference movies, like do you guys remember like Pony Boy? What's that movie called? The Greasers?
Oh yeah. But I'm gonna.
Okay.
I don't know either.
It's Stay Golden, right?
It's like Stay Golden, Pony Boy. Yeah. Okay. It's a movie about a bunch of greaser, like kind of like gangster guys. They're like all young. It's like from like the 60s. Men were real tough then. If you watch movies progressively back, even in the 90s, you guys remember watching like 90s movies? The guys were real like duty, like rough, like skateboarding, like had this image, right? If you watch movies starting in like the 2000s and like going forward, they stopped portraying men as these kind of like rough guys. I'm just seeing that just in cinematic world.
The Outsiders.
The Outsiders. Oh, I fucking love The Outsiders. Watch it if you guys are interested in it.
Would you guys say it is more of a social benefit to society? Or is it a manipulation of men, manipulation of people to get men to be more submissive? Like the movie thing, that's directed by someone. Someone's putting that message.
What I was getting at, that's like a collective whole kind of steering society, even if it's by incremental. That steers society. You know, what we consume is what we like, you know, what we digest mentally.
I want to answer both of those questions, right? In the first one, I would say things changed World War II, right? Men were the workers at that point until they all had to go to work. They had to go to war, right? And in order to produce for this war, women started going into the workplace, right? This created an era of women empowerment. This was post-women's suffrage.
Rose the Riveter.
Rosie the Riveter, right? We have these icons of women becoming dominant, right? And like, okay, so World War II. From there, women started seeing this world that they could be in, right? Totally okay. I'm full on with that. Like, this is first wave feminism, right? Equal opportunity. Where things started changing, right? The term metrosexual, I don't know if you guys have heard of that, came out in the 90s, right?
What does that mean?
These are feminine men, right? Men that go and get manicures, pedicures, waxes.
Yes, I'm familiar with the term.
So that term came out around in the 90s, right? So from World War II to the 90s, we have generations of men becoming more effeminate, right? Music's changed, right? The way people dress has changed, right? In 90s with Prince, you got 2000, people wearing more feminine stuff. But I would say the beginning of where that begins is World War II. Do I think it's a net positive? I think the first wave of feminism was where like women get the opportunity to go and develop money and build family income and financially, right?
Totally
I think
agree.
that's amazing. I think where it takes a negative turn is where men start to believe that in order to achieve the life I want and be with a partner I want, I have to kind of fit into these roles, which is like a sensitive man. Like, yes, it's okay to be in touch with your sensitive side and like have those conversations with women. But when it comes to the workplace or sports or achieving something, you can't be this sensitive, submissive type man because the submissive man gets stepped on in the workplace. And like, that's why you see at Starbucks or retail jobs, you don't really see masculine men. You see more effeminate men because they're better customer service. That's 100% true, right? And
that's playing into your strengths naturally.
Right. And so you don't see that masculine man in those roles because he doesn't serve that purpose. So I think when it starts to take that negative turn is when more men start thinking like, this is what I need to be in order to achieve fill in the blank, right? So being submissive has its place, just like being aggressive has its place.
On that note, I'm sure we could look it up, but my dad has brought this up. He said that one of the downfalls of like the family unit is that like post World War II, divorces legally became easier.
Yeah.
And just talk about patriarchy, the judicial system favors the women majority of the time in a divorce settlement case because they go, you're the women, you obviously are going to be the raiser of this child. Right. You can't depend on this guy. And so if the guy wouldn't listen to the woman, she could divorce him, take half of everything. And what? That's a lose-lose. Right. He's normally at this point in his life, it's hard to find another partner that is fits maybe good looking or even fits any of your qualities, that you want. Now you're old, you're past your expiration date. Who wants to date you? It's easier not to date. So it'd be easier just to kind of maybe shrink yourself to keep what like you have going.
Right. I think they basically incentivized it, right? Like we'll pay you and give you benefits if you're a single mom.
True.
We'll pay you and give you benefits if you're a single dad.
What I hear is like this female voice would be like, well, that guy was probably a piece of shit then. That's like automatically what I
But do you know that?
That's so like I feel like I understand how like women want to. I think it's vice versa. I think women want to shoot down men, but I also understand that the world we're living in is very like filled with the beta male and submissive.
There's so many people though,
Yeah, there's so many people on this planet and especially this country. But just thinking about just America, World War II, the movies that are being portrayed, how love is being portrayed, and how the man needs to be a superhero and I'm running to the sunset. It's like none of that stuff is real. But
people have this idea that marriage is all happy, rainbows, and fucking unicorn shit and ice cream. It's not that. You know what I mean?
It's more of like I see it as a business.
And I think it's become individualistic where it's like, I'm not happy, I need a divorce. Is that the best thing for your son? You know what I mean? Yeah. Is that the best thing for this family unit? No? Then what are we talking about? Oh, I'm not happy. Okay, well, I mean, you're not going to be happy all the time. Like marriage isn't about being happy all the goddamn time.
And I think that goes back to being clear and precise with what you want. It's like, okay, you're not happy. What would make you happy? What are some points?
Right.
How can we collaborate, not compromise?
And be precise about it.
Yeah.
Right? Definitely.
Any thoughts?
Re-ask that question, or was it a question? Or
It was more along the fact. I forget
when did the feminization of men start? And do you think it's a net negative or net positive?
Yeah, and you guys can go ahead, if you're watching this, go ahead and drop your comments, like to
please.
Interesting to think about what everyone thinks.
Yeah, definitely.
drop
this,
the fucking
this platform, we want to really get the discussion started. We don't want to like shadow ban or keep people quiet. So if you have comments, if it's negative, positive, whatever, put it in the comment section.
And we all come from different backgrounds, different paradigms too. So
right.
So go ahead.
I would say for me, I guess like I've been sort of like that feminine, like a young adult growing up. I recently didn't start tapping into like that masculine part of myself when I got older. So I think, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a negative of like men becoming more, I guess, feminine. It really depends on like how we're all defining like what that word means. Cause there's a lot of things attached to like, well, like, oh, men are becoming more feminized. Well, what exactly does that mean?
Submissive.
Submissive?
That's
do we automatically
one part of it?
If I can branch off on that, and let's get more to say because I want to hear.
I guess a question for me, like, for me to answer that, what does feminized men mean?
Okay. Just
I know we're talking about sensitivity and like.
Well, for me, you said if it wasn't a negative or positive. I want to explain to you why I think it's a negative to be a feminine man.
Okay, I want to hear it.
Just with me, through my own view of the world, I would say I'm not a feminine man. I'm not super masculine either, but I'm not a super, feminine man. Mm-hmm. I see myself having more opportunities, able to make easier connections, and able to portray a certain level of confidence that people are willing to trust me because I show these attributes. Mm-hmm. Someone who we would label beta or more feminine, I don't think I can trust him with a task, because I don't think he can handle it. I don't think he's able to make the connections I'm able to make because he was lacking confidence in himself. Okay. And these are the things where I think if you're always going to belittle yourself, you're going to belittle your life.
Right.
Because I have a certain level of masculinity and grandioso in me, I'm able to go try to carve a better life for myself. And that's where I feel like it's a net positive to have masculinity.
I think to answer that question, Devin, do I think it's a negative thing? I think reframing that question, like, is it a negative thing for men to be really down the road of being feminized? I do think it is negative, because when I think of like people that are like in that realm of negative femininity, or friends that I see, they do kind of fit that category where they're very submissive. They don't really speak up for themselves. They're in a situation with a partner who is, or whoever they're trying to pursue, but they're sort of not getting anywhere because they are in that role, right? So I would say there's a lot of benefits to be able to tap into your femininity or understanding your feminine side of yourself. But there's a lot more benefits of understanding that you can be very masculine, and it'll do a lot of good for you and probably counterbalance the problems that you're dealing with being totally in the feminine role.
Right.
And
you know what I mean?
On the short-term side, if you're ultra masculine and stuff, I'm sure on the short-term side, you get more pussy. It may not be long lasting, but girls immediately are more attracted to you.
Right.
Being what?
More
masculine, even if it's on the short.
I'd say I kind of disagree though. I think they like sort of like, I mean, today where things are going at, if we're talking about the same situation where like men are being sort of feminized or whatever, I do think, and this is my own paradigm, I think girls are attracted to guys who do look a little bit more feminine, not totally fucking hyper masculine. Yes, I do agree.
I would disagree, but the number one compliment I always get, they go, "I was attracted to you because you were so confident." So that's a masculine. It's a masculine.
That's a good point. It was a good talking point.
So,
but I also get the same compliments because I can understand like my femininity when talking to a woman, and they're like, "Oh shit, he's like emotionally like in tune," and you know what I mean.
That's not the girl I want to think.
So go ahead.
That's me. Just I don't know.
Yeah.
I think my guideline to understand how much how much emotion, because I don't, the feminine and masculine thing, I don't know too much about, but I do know that like it deals in feminine is your emotion and masculine is your aggression, standing up for yourself. So I think there's a balance, but understanding that my guideline is like the family structure. It's the family unit. If someone kicks in my door and I have a family, I have sons, I have daughters, and my wife is sitting here, who's going to be the person to stand up and die for everybody? The man is supposed to be.
Right.
The woman will not obviously she can fight and hold her own if she needs to, but
she'll
the
go to
man,
the kids.
she'll protect the kids.
Right.
But the man is supposed to be that person that's supposed to stand up. I'm not saying that women can't defend themselves, so that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But the role of a man is to be confident enough to stand up for his family. If you're talking about a man that is heavy in his emotions, very heavy in his emotions, and his woman likes that, what happens when your guys' lives are threatened? What happens? Who's going to stand up for who? Right? If that's not established, if there's no real, I guess you can say, role, there's really no security in that relationship.
Yeah.
One thing I just want to touch right back on what you said. I had said in the short term, I think you're correct. In the long term, women do tend to like somebody who's more in touch with their emotions.
Yeah.
I think that's correct.
Absolutely.
In the short term, in which I'm looking for, so like it doesn't necessarily matter that I'm like, and I am connected to my feelings. We're fucking talking right now, you know.
I would say you can be very feminine at certain times too, and I think it's super dope when guys can.
Right.
You know, be that.
Definitely.
And speaking on that, I'm from blue collared work, and a lot of times I wouldn't fit in with the guys because I'm not the stereotypical.
Right.
I literally was gonna bring that up too.
Guy.
Do guys ever be like, oh, you're like too into the way you look,
like,
or whatever?
They'd be like, oh, what's literally when I moved here, they go, who's the guy with the designer haircut on the job site? You know, I fucking like they got a nice fade, dude. What's up? Like,
you just don't want to look like shit.
Right.
I would often not fit in with some of the guys because they would think, oh, you're like, this dude's goofy, or like we'd go to a bar and I like to dance. I like to have fun, and like I'm in touch with like not being like so in this box like I'm not manly man, but
I don't dance.
And so personally, I never got along with guys like that because it's like you're just whipping your dick out and trying to see who has the bigger dick.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
That's not living. Like I'm trying to live my life. Like, I'm always thinking about long term. Like even in when it comes to like a woman, like I understand that a woman wants to be felt, heard. Just understanding how women operate and understanding like what majority of women look for. Majority of women don't care about what you look like. They care about your personality. Like, can you click with them? Right? Short term, they don't give a fuck. If you're attractive, let's fuck. And
I think that's just step one. Do my eyes like you? But anything after that, like you could be like the most good looking guy, and she's like, I'm not gonna fuck this dude. He sucks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I have 2 points to make, right? And the first one comes from Roommates podcast. When you ask a woman, what does she want in a guy, right? She's describing things such as he listens, right? We can have good conversations. He's sensitive, right? They're describing things that make them feel friendly or at home. They're not describing things that make them feel horny, right? And kind of going on that point is like an assertive man, right? Like whenever you have a discussion, I don't know if you guys know this with women at all, but in my experience, when you're like more assertive, it drives that horny factor up higher. We don't have to dive into that, but when they're describing things of the partner they want, they're not describing initial attraction. They're describing long-term, right? So yes, being more feminine long-term, that's great. So you can be that with your woman. If you want that initial attraction to be like real spicy, you know what I mean? You kind of have to be in more of that masculine, I would think. That's just my paradigm. On the second point, if you guys wanted to talk about that, we could. But on the second point, I lost my train of thought, honestly. But
horniness, talking,
horny jail,
wink. I lost my train of thought. If it comes back up, I'll bring it up. But I think I thought that was a good point.
Yeah,
about
I think it's all about finding the balance. You know what I mean? I think men are gonna. By no means, there's no negative result. It's really about what you're looking for out of a woman, out of a man. We obviously, whatever way you swing, whatever way you like, is what you're looking for.
Right. We're all inclusive. Gay, straight, or misunderstood. We're all about you.
Definitely. So my other point was, seeing as we're such a counterculture, right? Like, if we had a Democrat, we go Republican. If we didn't like the way they worked. If we had a Republican, we go Democrat. Or if men are super aggressive, we go the opposite direction completely, where it's like let's breed that out of men. Let's try and teach that out of men, where it's like, let's have them be more submissive, right? And then we get to that full side swing. Coming back, it's all about finding that balance, like you keep saying, right? It's all about kind of finding the middle ground. But seeing as our culture, we tend to swing all the way to one way and then swing all the way back.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
It's never like, hey, this is actually where we should kind of be. Things kind of have to kind of come to that pendulum balance.
And I think when me and you were talking, really, we both wanted to meet in the middle about how masculine or feminine you should be, you know? Mm-hmm. I would just say as a net, if you had to pick one side, I would say go for the masculine side, just as a society, if you want to propel yourself.
Oh yeah.
To get shit done and really like, yeah. Mm-hmm. I get you. I hear you.
Definitely. And like, that's not to say feminine traits are bad.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of benefits to being feminine. It
has its time and its place.
Yeah.
Being agreeable, you know, if you have a room of 10 dudes and they're all fucking big dicking each other, nothing will ever get done. At some point,
my dick's bigger.
At some point, a hierarchy needs to be established, and we need to fall in line so we can accomplish an end goal, you know? So
we can start moving.
Yeah. So I agree with that.
Yeah. So it's a very sticky
I feel more balanced in myself now because I did tap into like what it meant to be like more masculine.
Right.
On that note, I think you just are healthier, dude.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't known you that long, and I really didn't know you before I met you. So my view on you is, hey guys,
Bars.
Hey guys, I said something dumb.
Bars.
fucking thought about it.
Wait a minute.
I really didn't know you before I met you.
All right, just contents. They've known each other for a long time. I've known David for about 1.5 years now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, I just think you have become more confident in yourself, and I can physically see it. And I think that's a net positive.
Yeah, agreed. I think this one thing is really worth mentioning on page 320. You must also know clearly what you want out of a situation and be prepared to clearly articulate your desire. It's a good idea to tell the person you are confronting exactly what you would like them to do instead of what they have done or currently are doing. You might think if they loved me, they would just know what to do. That's the voice of resentment. Assume ignorance before malevolence. No one has a direct pipeline to your wants and needs, not even yourself. If you try to determine exactly what you want, you might find that it is more difficult than you think. The person oppressing you is likely no wiser than you, especially about you. Tell them directly what would be preferable instead after you sorted it out. Make your request as small and as reasonable as possible, but ensure that its fulfillment would satisfy you. In that manner, you come to the discussion with a solution instead of a problem. And I mean, how many of us here have been in a conversation with a woman in a relationship where it's like, well, this is what you've been doing from either side. Well, this is what you've been doing and I don't like it. Okay, well, how can it be improved? Right? Yeah. Or something's wrong. Well, what is it?
Something that's helped me on that, just that specific unknowingness of a problem existing in a relationship is if you can't be specific and point out this is what you did and this is why I don't like it,
right? There's
no conversation. Right. Because at the end of the day, one of us is going to shoot ourselves in the foot by assuming I don't like how you're acting. Oh, babe, you're right. Yeah, I did this. Wait, I'm not talking about that.
Right. But now that you brought it up.
Now that you brought it up.
I don't like that either.
That. And it's like,
damn.
So it's if you can be specific and I'm not denying a conversation, but if you can't be specific, then take a minute. Right. Be alone for a little bit. Think about what you need to say. Think about what problem I have or what problem I have with you. Then I'll come let you know. But until I get that clear, I'm not going to approach you on an issue.
Right. So fire to sort of not speak things, just shoot in the dark.
Right.
Because that does kind of end up being a problem got created out of nowhere. And now that's on someone's conscience if that didn't need to be there. And I think there's so much power of just being precise in what the fuck you're talking about.
Right.
So especially when people come to me and say I'm having anxiety. I'm feeling this way. I'm the first thing I ask now is can you pinpoint it?
Right.
Do you know exactly where it's coming from?
Yeah.
Start there.
Definitely. I think if we think about it, it kind of comes to decision making, right? It's in the short term, it's easier to say something's wrong than to be this is what's wrong. This is how it could be corrected.
Right.
It's easier to do that. in the short term, right? In the long term, it's a lot harder, right? Because it's like, well, this is what's wrong. Okay, well, I mean, I could do this to kind of help situate that. I can do this. I can do that. Or you can just be like, look,
Oh yeah.
this would be improved if you did this. This is why I didn't like it. It's easier. It's going to be better in the long run to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard at first, but it'll be a lot better to collaborate on that in a situation with a relationship.
Moving on to the next part about that chapter you just read. This part I highlight. This was my favorite part of the book as well. The one that you just read. Agreeable, compassionate, empathic, conflict averse people. All those traits grouped together. Let people walk on them, and they get bitter. I agree. You know, that's maybe those are some of those like feminine traits that we were talking about. You know, being agreeable, being compassionate.
Yeah.
All those things. It's a trait to have, which is really good.
Yeah.
But it does, I'd say, allow for a bigger capacity for you to let people walk all over you.
True.
And because you're not speaking your mind, you're just agreeing, and that's like a fail safe. It's like, oh yeah, we'll do what you want. Yeah, well, okay, all right, yeah, okay. It's a yes man kind of vibe.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that was a big reason why I didn't like being a host at like restaurants. Like I hated being a yes man.
And that's why most restaurants hire women to be hosts.
There should be more women in the military. It's like, if you want, you know what I mean? But like,
trying to fucking
they're
drop
built for
bombs
this
on
shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just scientifically, when
We built different.
we had these neighbors, the dad of the household was really far in the Navy. Okay.
Uh-huh.
His daughter really wanted to be a Navy jet pilot. She was a brainiac, very above average woman, very smart.
Awesome.
She failed the G-force test. And normally if you fail it once, you're not allowed to do it, because like there should be no if, and, or buts. If you're up in there, you can't pass out. You can't black out. You'll go down in the jet. Because she's just built, maybe that's tough internally to be able to handle the G-forces. And she negotiated with them, and they let her try again. And then she failed again. And she kept trying to like, well, let me get one. And they're like, hey, we gave you more than anyone else. We gave you 2 tries.
That's one area of anything is the military and the defense of our country is like, that's, to me, that's non-negotiable. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if we go to war, we're arguing if men and women should be battling.
Right.
Like let the men die first.
And if the women do want to be in there, I don't think in the military they have recently lowered the standards so more women can pass. I don't agree with that.
Me either.
It should be the same bar, but if you're a woman and you're able to compete at the same level, hey, we want you because the best are in there.
Yeah.
Now we've lowered the bar so low. Dude,
I don't agree with
I used to go to the boxing gym with these 3 Navy guys. 2 of them were so out of shape. I was like, you guys are protecting my country?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy.
Wow.
Well, it's like the women fireman test, right? Like you
gotta put someone on your shoulder.
For men, you have to pick up 200 pounds dead weight, right? For women, it's 100. Well, it's like if we're in a burning down building and I need you to take somebody out, they're 107 pounds, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like, no, like
it's not fair.
We're in here trying to rescue people. Like I don't want to have to worry about you.
And there's other ways they can help. They don't have to be the person who does that. They can still be part of the fire department.
Definitely.
Yeah. But if they are women who can, they can.
If they can pick up that 200, do it. I want you. I want you to pick me up and take me out.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
If you meet the standard, there's absolutely sign up and get fucking on the team.
Please do.
And that's the same thing. Let's say you go to your accountant, right? And they've lowered the bar so people with inadequate math skills can now become accountants. Would you want to use them as your accountant, or would you want to go to the guy who's qualified?
Right. Definitely.
Bars, man.
It's facts.
I like this part on 322. I highlighted. In a household like that, the choicest cut of child is the spirit, and it's always consumed first. Too much protection devastates the developing soul, and I think that's the theme for this chapter. And it made me think about, too much protection devastates the developing soul. Protecting in a way kind of like could be like that fail safe of where you're protecting yourself by just being agreeable, or the agreeable person, that feminine person as a man, or tapping into that too much or staying in that feminine spectrum for too long maybe allows for you to just be more agreeable, and protecting yourself all the time in that nature will devastate your soul. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's like the whole topic of this chapter. I highlighted that point as well.
Yeah. So I like that.
I thought it was interesting on 330 and 331, but on 330, the first paragraph, it says, a woman should not have to look after a man because she must look after children, and a man should not be a child. This means that he must not be dependent. This is one of the reasons that men have little patience for dependent men. And let us not forget, wicked women may produce dependent sons, may support and even marry dependent men, but awake and conscious women want an awake and conscious partner. And I thought that was really interesting because, like, I don't know about you guys, but looking up to parental roles, like, I've seen, it seems like in my household, my mom is the mom to everybody. And I could see that it's created a problem, right? Like, no man should be dependent on his woman, like, over the top, right? Like, yes, you depend on your women for some things, like, you know, whatever it might be, but there's levels to this. And if she feels like she's your mom, instantly respect's out the window.
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
I just thought it was an interesting point that should be brought up.
Yeah, I don't know. If you ask any woman, like, do you want to be paying the majority of the bills when you go out to dinner? Do you want to be paying for your man? A lot of women will say no. Why? Like, the men do it. You want to, like, let's hold each other, like, to the equal, right? Let's be equal. But there's a double standard in that where women want to have a lot of income or a lot of money. But then when they get a baby boy or like a son type boyfriend and they're paying the bill, if another man comes into that woman's life and makes as much as her or more than her and can pay for everything, that man's probably going to be exiting her life really, really quick.
I think you're making more of the point, and correct me if I'm wrong, about
me?
Yeah.
Okay.
About home life. For example, like, a mother is supposed to be accountable for, you know, this might be old fashioned, but cooking dinner, doing the laundry, keeping the house tidy. But if her responsibilities go into, hey, did you get my clothes out for work the next day? Did you make sure to make dinner? Did you do our bed? You know, if all the responsibility starts going on to her, where's your husband? Is it just like a kid? Is it just like an older person in the house? Is that kind of what the point you're making too? Not financially, because your dad does pay the bills. Some
of that, right? I would say, I'm like, it doesn't have to be the woman's job to do laundry, to cook, or whatever. Like,
sure,
that's depending on your marriage, or your relationship. I would say yes. Like, when it becomes like, oh, you didn't do my clothes, now I can't go to work, or like, oh, you didn't make dinner and now I can't eat. Well, it's like, bro, like, you're a grown ass man. You can do these things yourself, right? Like, I'm not your mom. You know what I mean? Like, pick up your socks. You know what I'm saying? Like, in that respect, you know? Yeah. So I would say some of that, yeah, definitely. Like, your woman shouldn't have to feel like she has to take care of you, because that's defeating the purpose. And then talking about what you had just brought up, I think he mentions it in the book, but we're living in a society now where women are able to perform at, you know, high competitive jobs, making great salaries, and just through natural selection, I guess, or instinct, they want a man that is either equal to or better than them. And that's harder and harder to find. So they end up settling for a beta male, maybe, you know? And then they ask, like, why men date these, like, low down chicks. It's like, well, we don't care dating same level, higher, lower. I mean, higher might be a little bit of a situation there, but lower, we don't care. You know, I think, who was just talking about this? I want to say it's like a Joe Rogan podcast. They're just talking about this, like how movie stars will just date a waitress, and they're like, how could you do that? And for a guy, is she cute? Do we connect? That's all I could care. If youthful energy. If you work in the soup kitchen, I could care. like, are you cute? Do we connect? You know?
There's a lot of platforms like Fresh and Fit talk about this. If a man makes a certain amount of money, we can date at whatever threshold level of woman. Doesn't matter if she works at McDonald's. Doesn't matter if she doesn't have a job. Doesn't matter if she makes as much as us, right? Obviously, it starts to get into like a little bit of an issue where she makes more or the same as us, because then she feels like
I wouldn't care if a woman made more than me.
Exactly. A lot of men don't care, but it's the woman that usually cares.
Totally.
Right.
Vice versa, a woman makes a certain amount of money, 6 figures, 7 figures. She is eliminating her total pool when she's choosing men, because she won't date lower than her.
Yeah.
Right. It's only higher. Most of the time it's higher or equal, especially if she's 6 or 7. But then they talk about it's like 1% of the 1% of the population. You're talking about the wealthy of the country.
Yeah, it's true.
So, and also, are you beautiful? Are you beautiful? Are you attractive? Do men like you? Are you fit? Are you so like? There's a lot of things to consider, but
because personally, I like a woman with a career. It like
Me too.
It's a turn on to me. I go, oh, you're a working woman. Like you know what work is, and I can respect you.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I'd agree.
Yeah. Like,
I think where the problem comes in is like where the whole reasoning for that I would say is like, okay, when I get pregnant and I can't pay the bills and I can't go to work, am I going to be safe?
Yeah,
that's the whole idea.
Yeah, that's an issue. I think because I've asked a lot of women this, and I think a lot of women, just general like hanging out, like ask women, like, do you prefer a man to take care of you, or like not necessarily. It's more the fact that like if you can.
Can you close that?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
It's called an water bottle.
If there is a sense of like, if a woman's like, I don't mind if a man makes less than me or equal to or whatever, he just has to have drive. He has to have ambition to be moving forward in life, not getting off work, going to play video games every goddamn day.
Right.
You know what I mean? He could play video games here and there, but don't be leaving Cheeto bags and your socks all over the floor and looking like I'm your mom.
Right.
You know what I mean? No woman wants that. If a woman says that she wants that, that's cap.
100%.
Cap.
Definitely. I have one more point. Does anybody else have anything else?
I'm
I
wrapped
think I'm
up.
done for the book, man.
I got an ending thing to say. That's it.
Okay. One thing I would compel all young male listeners to do, this is on 331, middle paragraph. It says, men have to toughen up. Men demand it and women want it. Even though they may not approve of the harsh and contemptuous attitude that is part and parcel of the socially demanding process that fosters and then enforces that toughness. Going to the next paragraph, men toughen up by pushing themselves and by pushing each other. So what I would really compel young men listening is go find yourself a source of counsel with, it can be men of different ages, but I would recommend some people that are roughly around your age, and you guys go seek more experienced people. But having those people to discuss these ideas with that are other men, they will provide you with solutions. And I think everybody here can attest to how much better life has been improved once you have that male counsel. That's just one thing I would suggest to anybody listening that's young male. Go and find that. Not just people that want to drink and do dumb crap all the time, you know? So, that's the only point I wanted to make.
Just to end it, if you think tough men are dangerous, wait until you see what weak men are capable of. Leave children alone when they are skateboarding.
Facts. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. That was chapter... give me a second.
Go hit the fucking gym.
Chapter 11, Rule 11, do not bother children when they are skateboarding by Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. We're signing off. Much love, y'all.
Story, but like there's a million other people.
All right, everybody, we hope you enjoyed the show. That was rule number 11. Don't bother children when they are skateboarding. From Dr. Jordan B. Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment because we love the feedback. Like the video and follow us on all our social media platforms. And don't forget, now equals tomorrow. Peace.